I've been gone for a while, but now I'm back, baby! Welcome to Mag Your Arcade for another edition of Tear It Up. Today's subject is Mortal Kombat! I've been enjoying Mortal Kombat 1 over the past 2 weeks, and I felt the time was right to do a Tear It Up of the mainline series. So yeah, all 12 mainline titles and no spin-offs, cause, well, most of them sucked anyways. Except for Shaolin Monks, that was awesome. Anyway, let's go ahead and tear it up. Yeah! Yeah! Starting off, we have the original Mortal Kombat. Released in 1992, it took the world by storm and horrified concerned parents alike. Along with a few other games, it was solely responsible for the creation of the ESRB rating system. But yeah, this is the one that started it all, introducing us to iconic characters like Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, etc. The ultra-gory fatalities which blew our minds back then. It wasn't the first game to use digitized actors, but definitely one of the first to be hugely successful. The Test Your Might minigame was fun, and it was a real shame that it took until Deadly Alliance to make its return. I also like how Midway used the same sound tech for their pinball machines due to it being a low-budget project. But yeah, solid first entry, and the series was only going to get better from this point. The OG Mortal Kombat, it goes in B tier. Next we have Mortal Kombat 2. Released in 1993, a year after the success of the first game, a sequel was a no-brainer. They took everything great about the first game and cranked it up to 11, with more characters, more fatalities, more hidden secrets, better graphics and sound, and the inclusion of babality and friendship finishers. 30 years later, in my opinion, it's where the series peaked, and it really expanded upon the game's lore with the introduction of Outworld and Shao Kahn. MK2, it's the GOAT. It's going in S tier. Next is Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Released in 1995 after the vanilla version of MK3, which was extremely rough around the edges. This brought back more fan-favorite characters, new stages, and improved gameplay. Other features that were introduced were the ability to uppercut your opponent through the ceiling into another stage, the animality and brutality finishers, the latter of which can be achieved by the new run-and combo mechanics. Great entry in the series. Ultimate MK3, it goes in A tier. Next up is Mortal Kombat 4. Released in 1997, it was the first 3D entry into the series while retaining the 2D style of the original trilogy. However, it's one of the low points of the franchise with the PlayStation and N64 era graphics that have aged poorly. This is another game that expands on the series lore, introducing the Netherrealm and the fallen elder god Shinnok. Another new feature was the weapon system, which allowed fighters to draw and throw their weapons similar to executing special moves. Although it does have its fans, the arcade scene in the US was dying, and this caused the series to take a hiatus up until it made the jump to be exclusive to consoles. MK4, it's going in C tier. Next we have Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Released in 2002 and the first of the 3D era, as combat was given a complete overhaul and played more on the lines of games like Tekken and Soul Calibur. Fighters now could switch between two hand-to-hand fighting styles, as well as a weapon with the push of a button. Along with the standard arcade mode included the Conquest mode as a sort of tutorial for each character, as well as the Crypt, where you could spend coins earned throughout the game on unlockables, which only added to the replayability factor. It also featured the return of the Test Your Might minigame, along with an additional game called Test Your Sight. Deadly Alliance was a solid return to the series. It goes in B tier, right in front of the original Mortal Kombat. Up next is Mortal Kombat Deception. Released in 2004, it was the first game to feature online play, ring out like stage fatalities with branching environments, as well as new modes like chess combat and puzzle combat. Conquest mode returns, but in the form of an RPG adventure mode telling the story of Jujinko, and serves as a prequel to the events of the main game. Other new additions to the game are the Harakiri finishers. Another solid entry, Deception, also goes in B tier right in the middle. Next up we have Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Released in 2006, this serves as the final chapter of the original timeline, with every single character in the series to this point being playable, which was really cool. The only drawback to this was instead of 3 fighting styles, players could only have 2. However, it had plenty of new features like Create a Fighter, Motor Combat, which was a Mario Kart-like minigame, air combos, and the ability to create your own fatalities. Not much of a story in this one. It's basically one big free-for-all between the forces of good and evil. Armageddon is an awesome game, gonna put it in A tier. Next we have Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. Released in 2008, and even though the events of the game are non-canon, it still counts as a mainline entry in the series. The story in this one is basically Shao Kahn, Darkseid, and all the bad guys from both universes team up to take down the Justice League and Earthrealm's protectors. While this looks great on paper, it didn't translate well in reality. What we got is a neutered and watered-down version of Mortal Kombat with no blood or gore in favor of a teen-rated comic book hero game. MK vs. DC, easily the worst game in the series. It goes in D tier. Next is Mortal Kombat 2011, or Mortal Kombat 9 as it's unofficially called. The first soft reboot of the series returns to its former glory and back to 2.5D thanks to the success of Street Fighter IV, which they also took inspiration from, with new gameplay mechanics like the super meter that can be charged up to either perform an enhanced special move, a combo breaker, or an X-ray attack for big damage. The story here starts with Raiden sending his past self a message in order to prevent Armageddon in the past, and the events of the original trilogy play out in the story mode. Only this time, several major events happen differently, and every choice Raiden makes from seeing cryptic visions of the future seems to make things worse, or at least for a while. But yeah, MK9, an amazing return to form. Gonna put it in A tier. Next up we have Mortal Kombat X. Released in 2015, was a superb follow-up to the last game's reboot. This game essentially serves as a remake of what MK4 should have been by reintroducing Shinnok as well as the next generation of combatants. They also added interactive environments similar to Injustice, as well as each character being able to have one of 3 variations of fighting styles to choose from. It's also when NetherRealm Studios began the trend of guest DLC fighters like Jason Voorhees and the Predator. In my opinion, MKX is the best of the initial reboot trilogy. It goes in S tier right behind 2. Up next is Mortal Kombat 11. Released in 2019, it was the final chapter of the initial reboot trilogy before the series would once again get rebooted with another new timeline in the next game. The story here follows the defeat of Shinnok in the new timeline, which draws the attention of his mother, Kronika, Titan and the Keeper of Time, to gather an army of younger versions of enemies and allies alike. The ensuing chaos erupts into the ultimate battle for not only the realms, but time and space itself. Solid conclusion to the reboot trilogy. I'm going to put this one in A tier. And finally we have the newest game, Mortal Kombat 1. The first game of the new era where time has been reshaped in Fire God Liu Kang's image. These changes include Raiden now being a mortal farmer, living a peaceful life beside Kung Lao. Sub-Zero and Scorpion are brothers, with Kuai Liang taking up the mantle of the latter, as well as Shang Tsung and Quan Chi living meaningless lives stripped of their sorcerer's power, at least at first. Also, Shao Kahn hasn't taken over Outworld yet. The combat system is almost identical to the previous 3 games, with the biggest inclusion being the cameo fighter system, which works similar to the assist characters in the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Personally, I would have preferred they stuck with the traditional one-on-one mechanic, but that's just me. The story mode is really good and helps set up a solid universe for future entries in the series. However, the removal of the crypt really disappointed me, and the conquest mode tends to get dull real fast. Other than that, another great game that's rough around the edges, but of course, this is the vanilla version, so it's only going to get better. MK1, gonna put it in B tier right in the front. Well guys, that's every mainline Mortal Kombat game ranked. If you like the video, click the thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and let me know what game series you want to see me do a Tear It Up of next. See you around.